So I'm going to do this video, again, some more Sky Beta memories. This is Storm, or Eden, Eye of Eden, in July of 2018. Now, what happened here is from March, where I think I did the last video I did of the beta memories for Eden, to July, there had been very few changes in Eden. I think there might have been some polishing, there might have been what was adjusted most in Eden for all that time was the difficulty of the final area. The final area where you either, where today you die, back then where you had the possibility of really losing your emotes. At this point, all the way up until through winter season, actually through the beginning of 2019, you were still losing emotes in Eden, or you still risked losing emotes in Eden. All of your emote upgrades were done by shepherding the spirits, the light, the emotes through Eden. And whatever you saved, whatever you got through to the end with, you could die, but chances are you wouldn't die. Dying wasn't necessarily absolutely a given. Whatever emotes you saved to the end, you then protected, and then you got the upgrade. So you would then go back through the game and collect the emotes again, and you collect the upgrades, shepherd them through Eden. Then you get the chance to upgrade again up until the 4 upgrades, or the 3 upgrades, or the 5 upgrades of like Cry and Wave. So that was the point of Eden, was to shepherd the light through it, save it, survive, and then you go through and you upgrade your emotes. And that's how you upgraded your emotes, and that's how you gained wing power at one point. I mean, these were all things that they played with. This was a constant adjustment through the entire beta of flight power, how you increase flight power, how you upgrade emotes, and basically what the purpose of all of this is. So this video is really not a whole lot different, other than the people I'm with, than the last video I did of Eden, because not much had changed other than the difficulty. When I first did Eden, very first time back in March, early March of 2018, it was very hard. I was absolutely terrified of it. A few weeks later, when I first made my first successful trip through Eden, the difficulty level had been toned way down, so that it was pretty easy to go through. For about a month or so, it was very easy. Then they kept increasing the difficulty again, so that it became harder. By the time they increased that difficulty, I had most of my emotes saved. By this point, I don't think we still had too many more upgrades to get. I think we were pretty static at this point. With winter season, they introduced a few more emotes, plus the seasonal emotes, but that's still, at this point, a few months off. From July, when this video is July 31st, through November, Eden was the same. However, in August of 2018, and I do not have video of it, they introduced a new version of Eden, a new version of the end of Eden. So this whole part was the same again. Then they introduced this new version. Now I do have the new version, but not the original new version. So I'm going to be releasing a November video of a new version of Eden. In August, that new version was introduced very briefly. It was a version where you actually lost your light. You still shepherd your emotes through Eden, as far as I can remember. You still had to shepherd your emotes through Eden. But the flight power had changed, so that when you went to Eden, you tapped on a shrine and you lost a wedge of light. Then by the end, you had very little light to work with, and then when you restarted the game, you had 1 wedge of light. This was horrible. It was bad, because it was not a complete think through of the whole thing. It was a test. It failed miserably. Everybody hated it. Because we couldn't make it through forest anymore. By the time you got to forest, you didn't have enough light to do anything with. So again, it was beta, and at the time we're all freaking out, but obviously it was beta and it was a test and it failed. But I think that was their first try of getting to where you lost your light and you started fresh the next run through. It was when they were testing the point of Eden. So here we have this gate that was newly added. It was one of the changes that was made, was this gate with the crabs on top of it. At one point it was a buggy as all get out. This gate stayed until, I want to say shortly before global launch. I think this gate stayed quite a while before they got rid of having to open the gate. Now it's just an opening through. You don't have to open the gate anymore. With the crabs, and you can see our old-timey crabs. There's an old-timey crab. Haha. Had a few of those still left over. The last one remaining was in Forest Temple, and it is now gone too. It was gone before global launch. But anyway, right now in this version of Eden, in this Eden run, I am shepherding Marcy and Fati. Now Marcy and Fati were two of my best friends in beta. I completely lost touch with them at the beta reset. Yeah, first they reset our friendships, so when I found Fati, I didn't have a chat with her anymore, and then they reset the beta, so I lost touch with both of them. So Fati, Marcy, if you're out there, hello, please say something. But I'm basically shepherding Marcy through to get her Forest Elder hair. Marcy and Maddie were big on the Forest Elder hair, and I think I got Maddie through her first time too. I don't really recall that one so much, but I did get Marcy her help Marcy get her Forest Elder hair. At this point, I have all my emotes fully upgraded, so all I've got is once you have the emotes fully upgraded, you go to Eden. You still exchange that light, and then you can. If you do that, you then collect shields on your next one. So it's a little blue shield on your emote rather than a new emote upgrade. So you're still collecting the blues, which I think I've explained before. So you'll see blue shields breaking rather than emotes breaking when I lose light, lose emotes. And if not here, then later. But I can't remember if any of these guys had emotes yet to upgrade. The Cry and Wave, I think the Cry upgrade was added. The last two levels were added later, so we did end up with more emotes to upgrade at one point during the beta, but I think it was prior. It might not have been prior to this. It might have been right around this time. None of this has really changed. Again, it's the difficulty is the only thing that kept being. We still don't have a krill up here. That was later. In November, we didn't still have a krill up there, so that was quite some time. It seems like a really big stretch of time between updates of Eden. But again, like I said, it's mostly the difficulty that is updated. So anyway, I was also saying that we had a new version in August released very briefly. It was interesting. Like I said, it was the light, giving the light, and then it was no longer giving the light. I can't remember all this, but at one point, somewhere in there, they also released the ending, which they had never released before. And it was accidental as far as I can tell, as far as we can determine. I'm pretty sure it was accidental. They released the very ending, which very much resembled what we have now with the ascension to orbit. And then no credits yet, but that ascension to orbit and the beauty of flying with your friends up there. And it brought tears to our eyes. We absolutely loved it. And then it lasted about 3 days and was pulled, which made me think that it was an accident. It was not meant to be released. So a few of us got to see it. One person, Loki, actually recorded it and has a video on his channel. I can't remember what his channel name is, but he's the only person I saw who had recorded it. Of course, it's not quite as special to watch somebody else's recording of it because it's not your friends. It's just somebody else's friends that you don't have any relationship with. You can see the little blue shields and all my emotes here. That was collecting the blues so that I could enter Eden, because you still needed 20 or 10, something like that, blue spirits to get into Eden. I love this picture. The one on the right is actually one of my alts, not me. It's actually one of my alts. This is a pretty bad memory on this one, because there was a bug where if you entered the final doorway, this hallway has been extended. I think that's the only change you might see between this version and the previous one I did of this level, is this hallway has been elongated quite a bit, much more like it is now. Unlike today, you could go into the final area and leave at will. It didn't make you finish. So right now this is the point of no return today, but it was not. You could return. to the game and just go back home and whatever. I'm trying to cut out the big blocks of chat we did. So what I was doing here is I was going through it and letting them warp to me so that I would protect them through it. Again, I had nothing to lose, really. There's a shield going away. There's a shield breaking. We did have torches through here at the beginning. There was a bug, though, when you get to the end. You go through a doorway, and there was a bug where if you were holding hands, the person you were holding hands with would be warped back to the beginning. And I stupidly forgot about that and held hands with Fati. Didn't let go of her before going through the doorway. And sure enough, Marcy and I got in. My alt got in, and Fati was warped back to the beginning and did not make it. And of course, then just went home. She wasn't going to finish on her own. So, but that's a lot of times what I did here was I would go through and then let people warp to me. And what you could do is you'd go through in the end, you'd be out of light at the end, but eventually you'd get your light back. I'm not sure you still do get your light back. Once you lose your light, I think you rely on somebody else to help you get light back, or something to be lit somewhere, or go home or something. I don't think not within a few seconds anyway, you get your light back. Because you cannot be warped to if you don't have light. So you'd have to wait till you got your light back, then chirp madly, and then... So that's what I was telling them at the beginning was I will go through and then I'll chirp madly. And I've lost my light. Chirp madly when I get there. Obviously, I'm going chibi at this point. Well, we all were going chibi. For a while, I didn't go chibi. It was very hard. Still was hard, but things get easier as you do it more and more. Kind of like Eden today. So again, this is all very much the same, but a lot of the changes were subtle. Subtle changes in difficulty, some view, and then eventually we did get a full new version that didn't stick around, but it was an attempt at, I think, what they were heading for, which is what we have now. So this is pretty much it. I am now at the end. I'm now just going to have to sit and wait to gain my light, and then they will warp, and then Marcy and I will go through, and Fati will be left behind. Dang it. Anyway, so next will be a new version of Eden. So thanks for watching.